there's an old ancient Deuteronomic code where Jewish farmers were encouraged to leave their fields, not to harvest all of their fields, but leave the edges free. And I just say, for those of us today, many of us are not farmers, but for those of us, we need to leave margin in our lives where we're able to give back, and that starts today. If it's not a discipline today, it probably won't be in the future.
Exactly. Marlon, when's the best time to start giving back?
I grew up in a Baptist church, and so every Sunday. No, seriously, my dad taught me at an early age that the more you give, the more you receive. And so my first full-time job, I started tithing. And of course, that is translated into, my full career. And in fact, when I was elected to the Senate, I pledged to my district that I would give away my entire Senate salary back to the district in the form of nonprofit grants. And so that's had a powerful impact on the community, because so often politicians are viewed as greedy and hungry, and a lot of negative stereotypes go along with that. So immediately is the time to give back.
Great. And Ted?
I absolutely agree with Marlon. It should start immediately. I grew up, my parents had me working in soup kitchens and going back, doing a lot of things in the community as a little kid. But, I'll use a couple of personal examples. One is very personal to me. Although I manage money for a living, I built my entire practice in the sports and entertainment industry. But how did that happen? It happened because there was a ball player who I happened to become friends with who tore his ACL. And, it's the story you told earlier about Thomas. He tore his ACL. That was the end of his career. And right after he found out he wasn't able to play anymore, he discovered that the person that was handling his financial affairs had basically been taking money from him and had never filed his taxes. So here I am. I'm struggling. I told you guys the story. I'm struggling. I basically couldn't afford to eat, but I had a house. And so I let him move in with me. And while he was living with me, I started learning a little bit about the business of sports. By the way, anybody that knows me knows I never watched sports. I didn't grow up watching sports. These guys don't watch me at work every day. I don't need to watch them. But I've worked with athletes my whole career as a result of helping this one person out who was in need. We encouraged each other over the years that one day we were going to actually make it big. And I talked him into going back to college. He went back to college, got his degree a week ago. I sat there watching him being sworn in as the youngest chief of police in Camden County, New Jersey. So, it's giving back is something that should start very early. If I could give one more example.
Sure.
Just the same sort of thing of how, starting early, giving back. Early in my career, I told you guys how I struggled originally. And so, I sort of became this poster child when things turned around in the firm, that whenever somebody was struggling, their manager would say, well, you should call this guy, Ted Reed, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. He might be able to give you some pointers on how to turn your business around. But for some reason, I don't know why, maybe it's a cultural issue or whatever, but most of the African-American brokers would wait until the week before they were about to get fired. And then they would call me up and go, hey, I need your help. The first question I would say is, when did your manager tell you to call me? Well, it's been about 6 months, but I just didn't have time to get around to it. So I decided, you know what? I went into my manager and I said, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to let me take the conference room one evening, and I'm going to invite all the minority brokers in our area to my office. And I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to talk to them about all the hurdles that I had to deal with and how I was able to overcome them, and we'll sort of make it an information exchange. Well, my business was just starting to turn at that point, so I wasn't at any major level, but how did I know that this was actually going to become an initiative for the firm? Mm-hmm. And so literally the night after I had this meeting in my office, I got a phone call from what was back then our EEOC department. Today they call it Diversity and Inclusion. But I got a phone call. I didn't know what EEOC was. It just said, hey, we heard about this meeting you had. We need you to come to New York immediately. I thought I was going to get fired. I'm like, I was like, they must think I'm trying to start some rebel organization or something. So I drive to New York. I'm scared to death, and I walk in, and they said, you know, this is now that you've taken the bull by the horns, we want to do this on a national scale. And that became the Minority Business Exchange, which I was down in Atlanta 2 weeks ago. It's the Morgan Stanley Multicultural Leadership Summit, where, you know, we had, I mean, it was basically some of the top brokers in the country that came to this thing. But it was amazing that who would have thought that a lot of the relationships, and I know you guys are going to talk about that later, a lot of the relationships that I built within our firm that many other financial advisors only dealt with financial advisors. They didn't have the relationships that I did in investment banking and asset management and a trading desk and all those other areas came because managing directors from many other areas within the firm sat on the committee for the Multicultural Business Exchange, which I helped to develop. So my whole career was based on helping other people. It's never too early to give back.